Welcome again to It Doesn't Take a Genius, conversation with introspective perspectives and pithy points of view. Here are your hosts, my friends, Max and Marty.
I think that's Mark and Mike.
Yeah, whatever.
Before we start, I'm going to go ahead and cover the obvious, which is you have a lovely, lighted, well-defined features on your face video with a lovely background. I, for some reason, am in the middle of as near as I can tell, some sort of soap opera love scene. There's this gauzy film over my face, and we don't know why. We spent about maybe 15 minutes trying to work out my lighting issues. We didn't get that covered. So here am I in all of my romantic glory. Sorry, I felt like I needed to say that. Marshall, we are here today. This is a little gutsy on both of our parts, I guess. We recorded a coaching session. You had something you wanted to work on. I happen to do coaching. So we recorded the session just to give folks a sample of what coaching could look like. This isn't like the best coaching session ever. It's just a good example of solid, the basics of coaching covered here in a quick little session. So I guess I want to set this up before we roll tape and let people hear this, is just noticing that there's sort of an arc to this conversation. So for those of you listening, I want you to be noticing that there's a little bit of an arc. We're going to start small, just figuring out a really defined starting point for what we're talking about, why it's important, what would be determining factors for how we would know that we had been successful at this thing that we were wanting to talk about. And then the call just kind of goes to wild places. You know, the session just explores all sorts of different avenues. Some are profitable, some not so much. And then you have a moment of awareness, you have an aha, and an insight, and things start to tighten up again. And we go back to a really defined thing, which is an action plan, some sort of next step. So be listening for that arc as we play the tape of this recorded session. Anything else we should cover before we just roll tape?
I think it just answers the question. When you say coaching, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Well, here's an example.
Well, thanks for letting me record this session, Mike.
It's my pleasure. I'm excited to be here and looking for the opportunity to explore some cool stuff.
Yeah, as am I. And you mentioned that you wanted to explore getting more non-contract work.
Yes.
Say more about that.
Well, currently, a lot of the people that do what we do it. A lot of people don't understand we do it through contracts, and so we work with car brands, manufacturers, things like that. But we don't work directly for them. We get contracted by another company, and then that company has the contract with the client. Yeah. And so I find this in all of the people that we work with. We're incredibly talented at what we do, and we're incredibly inept at marketing ourselves on our own. And so we tend to work for half of what we typically would charge if we were contracting ourselves, because we'll give up half of our income to allow somebody else to market us and get us clients. So as I get older, I just had a birthday. My working days are much more limited. I finally figured out, unless I'm going to live to be 120, I'm no longer middle age. So with that limited amount of time left, right, how do I maximize those efforts? I love the clients I have. I don't want to give any of them up, but I know there's more I could be doing.
What does maximizing that time look like?
I think it's I love the I think it's Seth Godin who said, I want to do work that matters for people who care. And so doing work that matters for people who care and getting paid at the rate that I know my contemporaries are already getting. And so I know that in the marketplace, yeah, I'm probably underselling my services as far as the value that, the money that I'm asking for that.
So with limited time left, you want to maximize that time. That's doing work that matters for people who care at a rate that's comparable with what you know is already achievable out there with some peers.
Oh yeah. I think definitely, and I've got that now. I do. We've been very fortunate. I've been very fortunate to work with clients and pick people to contract with who've contracted on projects where we get to do that kind of work, and I love it. Probably the greatest compliment I ever got was had a guy, and he was also a contractor in the store. And he watched me work in the store all day. And as I was walking out the door, he said, "Hey, come here." He says, "I've been watching you all day." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "I truly believe if you weren't getting paid, you'd still show up and do this." I was like, I probably would. When I quote retire, if I ever retire, I will probably do what I'm doing now. I may do it for volunteer organizations, and charities and associations and things like that. But yeah, I love doing the work. I'm doing the work for the right people. I just know that, I've got a few years left, and can I maximize the income that I've got in those years? And just so we're clear, I want to make it clear that I haven't been diagnosed with anything. Just going on from a statistical actuarial standpoint.
Yep.
Looking at the tables,
counting the days.
Yeah. That's what I'm going on. Yeah, I feel fine. No Ebola, nothing like that.
Yeah. What makes you feel like non-contract work is the solution to this maximization of days?
Well, that's a good question. I do some of it now. I've got, on and off, and I've done it in the past. And I just know that every time I talk to somebody who's doing that type of work, I've got people who do it, and I'm friends with them. At a minimum, they're getting twice what I currently get. And at a maximum, they're getting 5 times what I'm getting.
Wow.
And I don't want to be boastful, but I know that I can provide as good a service as those folks. I think my skills are on par with theirs.
Yeah. And your track record speaks to that.
Yeah. I've had clients, in the contract world for 10 plus years.
Yeah.
And they've stuck with me, and we've grown together, and
I
value it enough to continue to keep signing up.
Okay. So by the end of this session, what would you like to have achieved?
I think I need to identify the roadblocks. Right? This has been an opportunity for me for the last 20 years, and why haven't I done it? It's one of those, it seems so logical. Somebody said, with a little bit of effort, you can make twice as much as you make currently and do the same thing that you love. Why wouldn't any normal person go do that? Apparently I'm not normal. So I guess I need to identify my abnormalness. And it's interesting because the vast majority of people I work with are doing it the same way that I'm doing it. So am I a product of my peer group? Am I, what is it? You're the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with.
Yeah.
And professionally, the vast majority of people I spend the most time with are people who are doing it the way I'm currently doing it. And we're all, don't get me wrong, we're all very happy, and we're all doing well. The pandemic hit, and our work fell off 60-80%. And I know everybody putting away enough money to ride that out successfully without a lot of hardship and stuff like that. So yeah, we're doing well. It's just, could we do better?
Okay.
Good question.
And there are some roadblocks you'd like to identify to the path to doing better.
Yes.
Okay. Where would you like to start looking at these roadblocks?
That's a good question. I think I probably I guess maybe start with the elephant in the room, which is why is it so difficult to talk about and ask for the value that I bring? Right? And just saying that sentence out loud makes me incredibly uncomfortable. Like, let's talk about the value I bring. Excuse me, I want to pat myself on the back.
Yeah.
Let's celebrate me. I hate that. It's just,
well, what makes that a celebration of you versus just the value that they're looking for?
And I get that. Yeah, because like I ran for elected office, a zillion years ago, and same thing. I was terrible at it. Right? You had to go in front of people and say, "This is what I'm good at, and this is what I can do, and here's why you should go with me." I was terrible. Like, I'm pretty good at talking. That's the one topic I can't talk about. It's like, yeah, apparently I'm Fight Club.
But you were elected.
Yeah, in the one situation I was, I held a very high office in a very competitive national volunteer organization.
Yeah.
But I actually ran for elected office in our, United States government political system.
Okay.
And that sucked. Yeah.
What's the difference there between the two?
The other one, I was a known entity, and I was elected based upon the reputation that I had established.
Okay.
I didn't have to go say anything. The work I had done the previous 15 years with that group just kind of propelled me into, and it was, I think it's been a while back. Yeah, there was 3 other candidates in the election, and it was a nationwide thing, and I won, but it was purely based upon I had gone out and interacted with, I traveled to all the states and interacted with, all those people, and quite truthfully helped them, right? I was in a training kind of situation at that point, and based upon the work that I'd done with them, then they chose fit to elect me as their leader.
So being a known entity, having a good reputation, interacting with folks and helping them, that was a recipe for success.
Yeah, it was one of those things. Yeah, I became like the go-to guy. Somebody was stuck with an organizational issue or a people issue. Then they would reach out to me, and we'd figure it out, and they'd go forward. And in turn, they were grateful for the assistance. And then when I needed something, like, I didn't need, or I wanted to become the head of this organization, I thought I could do some good there. They repaid all that with their votes, their advocacy, right? They made posters and signs and called people and got the whole thing lined up.
Was it hard to talk about the value you brought to that organization when it was time to run for office there?
Oh, yeah. The other candidates they stood up and said, "Hey, been to this many states, I've traveled to this, this many miles, I've spent this many hours. They'd recount their, all that they had done.
Yeah.
And, and said, hey, I've done all this stuff. I want your vote. Right. I didn't do any of that.
Is that right?
First of all, I never kept track. I couldn't tell you how many people had attended my workshops over the 15 years. I couldn't tell you how many miles I traveled. I just went and did the thing. Right?
Yep.
I did the thing, and then apparently it was enough. If there was a tipping of the scales or value, something in people's minds, the value that was brought tipped the scales to my favor, I guess.
Well, how did you stick your neck out to even run for that office?
A lot of encouragement from other people. The old people come and go, "You be great." Right?
Yep.
You need to do this. We need you. It's like, okay, and so you hear that enough, and then you look at what's going on, and you have some ideas about how you'd approach it and try to make it better and help it adapt to whatever's going on in the world. And so then I was like, okay, let's do it.
You called this the elephant in the room. Are there other smaller elephants in the same room, or is this, are we talking about the thing we're supposed to be talking about?
Well, I think there may be a subset of that. So the subset of that would be, one of my, I guess it might be a character flaw, is that I don't like asking people for stuff. I don't like asking for help. Right. And it makes my wife insane. So, like, I've helped everybody in my circle of friends, except you, rebuild their house, remodel their house. At some point I'll get down there and put a tile floor in for you at some point. But I'm incredibly awful, and I just don't do it. Well, maybe I'm not awful because I don't even do it. Right? I never ask for help when I have a project. If I'll talk about it, and if people show up and help, I'm incredibly grateful for the assistance. But I won't call and say, "Hey, I'm tearing up my floor. Can you come over and help me do that?" I'll just tear it up myself, and in the middle of that project, if they call and say, "Hey, I need some help," I think that's fun. I'm excited. I enjoy doing it, so I'll just run over and help them. So that may be a subset of, I don't talk about myself as far as promotionally, and I don't ask for, I don't want to take from people. I know their time is valuable, and I don't want to take that from them.
But what you bring is valuable.
When I show up, the project usually goes better. Whether we're talking about home remodel, or we're talking about leadership development, coaching, planning, personal interaction skills. I've had people say, and there again, before I said it, I even hesitated. I've had people say that, interacting with you has changed my life. Right. Even though I'm working on work, right, they'll tell me, what you taught me saved my marriage.
Right.
And you're like, well, I know that wasn't where we set out to go, but it was good enough stuff that was what the outcome was. It's like, well, that's pretty cool.
Well, and that's what you've been doing with the civic organization, right? Or in the past did with them, that, it was about the organization, or it was about people you helped. I mean, that's why they voted for you, is because you helped.
So yeah, and I guess that's right, like right at the sticking point. So
Mm.
I do this and I know that I've had success with it.
Mm-hmm.
But to go out and say, hey, you don't know me, but I can help with your thing. And yeah, you need to sign up with me. Yeah.
Does it have to be complete strangers?
No, I think that's a good question. I don't know that it has to be complete strangers. Um, I'm trying to think which one would be easier though.
Oh,
Would I be more comfortable asking somebody who knows me and my reputation
okay.
to sign up, or would it be easier to ask, to pitch my wares to a complete stranger?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought that through. Yeah, that's interesting. So yeah, is it? Yeah, it's kind of like presenting, right? Is it easier to present to people who know you, or some people want to present to people who know nothing, never met me
Yeah.
before, and I find both groups of people in the world.
Oh.
So yeah, I guess I have to decide which one I am.
Well, you mentioned the competitors for that office being, people that told everybody what they did. And then meanwhile, you're getting votes because you showed people value and brought help, in all these interactions.
Mhm.
Is there an opportunity with strangers to help them, to show them value, before you ask for business?
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. I watched what you've done with. I think you did some programs for the Chamber of Commerce, uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
for free, and then that led to people seeking you out to, um, for paid services.
Yep.
So yeah, that could be. Uh, yeah, that could be the way to go about that. I'm a huge fan of Seth Godin, uh, and that's Seth's business model. Give away everything that you've got, everything that you know, and then the people who like that will want to know more and will be willing to pay to
Mm-hmm.
know more
Mm-hmm.
and to work with you. So
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, finding what do they call it in the music industry, a showcase. Yeah,
Right.
where you
Right.
where you go and play a few songs for free, and there's people in the audience that agents and stuff that could potentially sign you up for a contract.
Yeah. And since we're recording this, I won't say the name, but I think you have a friend who would often have his clients, when he visited them, have him come to the whatever was the civic organization luncheon during his visit, and would give a speech, do an exercise, do a 20-minute workshop or something, for the sake of his client, almost like he was a sponsored free out of town speaker,
Mhm.
and would, I believe, got quite a bit of business that way, if I remember correctly.
Oh yeah, that raises a great idea. So yeah, because I travel to different cities, because I live in a pretty
Yeah.
small town, so
Right. Right.
opportunities are somewhat limited. But yeah,
But you're all over.
yeah. So yeah, if I traveled into a bigger town, could I um, offer to do a program, and then that from that could lead to some bookings and contracts and things like that.
Yeah. Yes. I don't know, where your head is here, but are we talking about the right things for overcoming the roadblocks? Are we covering the ground?
Yeah, I think we are. Yeah, I think we're we may have transitioned into a little bit of the solution brainstorming.
Okay.
So yeah, so we're not going to overcome the obstacle of me being great at talking about myself. Let's just, yeah, that's one thing that I kind of knew, but it's definitely much more clear now that we've had this conversation.
Okay.
Like,
Okay.
I'm never going to be good at this because even trying to tell you, right? You're like, just sticks, just it got caught right here. Like I've helped people, people have told me that this is really good, right? It's just like it didn't even come out here, so yeah, the odds of becoming Anthony Robbins or Grant Cardone at this point in my career, probably not a statistical likelihood. So,
and it's possible it's part of your charm, right?
Well, yeah, it's part of, I don't know if it's charming, but it's definitely part of me. So, yeah, so let's, I think that's neat to say, all right, I think that's helpful. You're never going to fix that, right? Or the work that it would take to fix that is, would take so long that, I'd have to live to 120 to finally be over it. So instead of focusing on the obstacle and beating my head against the wall and even being hard on myself because I know I'm not good at it, then I just find a way to do it without doing that. Right? Like, can't go through the mountain or over it, and then you go around it. Yeah, kind of thing. So
the Seth Godin path.
Yeah. How do you how do you give away enough value that people want to pay for additional value? Right.
Okay. So what are you thinking are practical ways to get started on that?
I think I've got a couple of people who even this year, had seen some of my work and had said, "Hey, I need to get you into our group." And I'm like, "Yeah, that would be awesome." And so there's at least two of them that I need to follow up on.
Okay.
As I begin to put my calendar together for 2022, and while it's still got space, I need to take them up on their offer.
You have people offering at least a introduction to some non-contract work.
Yes.
Duly noted. Already there.
Yeah, that would be like the lowest, ripest hanging fruit of all.
Right.
like pull that down off the tree.
Nice.
And see what that does.
And is there some formula there for getting that fruit to ripen?
There really isn't. It would be the stuff I already do, which is that first conversation, and within that first conversation, that assessing needs. What's the biggest thing, that obstacle you're facing? What is it you'd like to accomplish in 2022? What would keep you from getting there? What is it that you lay awake at night thinking about when it comes to the success of your team, your department, your organization? So yeah, just doing the discovery part of that. And then the rest of it is just kind of like magic.
Yeah.
Once you and the client have decided on a direction, it's almost all encompassing. Right? I can't turn my brain off from thinking about it. Right? Like night and day, you're thinking, okay, we could do this, and then if I did this, I got a great exercise to bring this out. We could get this discussion, commit to that. Right? It just the brain just starts to do the part that I enjoy, which is figuring out, okay, how are we gonna talk about this? How are we gonna make this some form of infotainment, right? Where it's gonna be informative, fun, and engaging, and at the end, people will do something more, better, different, or less because we had the workshop, the training, the conversation, the coaching, whatever.
And then they'll say, hey, I need to get you in front of this other group.
Right. Yeah. I know some other people who need to hear this.
Okay.
But I think, right, that brings up a good point. To maybe I'm terrible at telling people that I'm great, but could I ask for them to refer me? That's something, it's a subset of asking for help, which is something else we've determined I'm terrible at. So yeah. I think I'm gonna have to throw myself off a building now, Randy. Yeah. This is not good. But yeah, could I? Yeah, this went well, right? The old Tom Stuker thing, right? Who do you know? Who do you know that also might find this valuable?
Yeah. Who could I help?
Yeah.
That's what you do, is you help.
Yeah. Who else could? Yeah. Oh no, I like that. That's a better way of putting it. Who do you know that's also struggling with this? That could benefit from some help. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
So you've got some stuff that just is being pushed your way because they see the magic, they see how you're helping, and they're offering some opportunities. You got to follow up on those. In other cases, you might have a chance to pull some of those recommendations, referrals that you need to, then go pursue, but do it your way. Who can I help? Ask how you can help. What else would give you opportunities?
I think that's the biggest, right? So that's like with anything that you start doing, you got to take the first step, right? You got to go to the gym the first day. You got to put on your running shoes and go out the door the first day. And then everything after that gets a lot easier. So it's been a while since I've done that. You know, I've made a wonderful life doing it the way I'm currently doing it.
Yeah.
So I haven't had to do that. I just hadn't had to pursue that. So, so yeah, I think that, yeah, if I do that, then I think that primes the pump for what needs to come next.
How does your outlook on mortality affect your energy level on this first step?
It's definitely higher. I mean, I wouldn't have even brought it to the table for this conversation had it not elevated in my mind.
Yeah. Interesting.
So yeah, because we could have talked about a million other things, but I picked this to talk about. So it's obviously something that's it's pretty high up, and where whatever's high up, there tends to be more energy to put towards it.
Great. Okay. What do you want to do next?
All right. So before Christmas.
Okay.
Which when you're watching this, it will be Christmas Day if we release this podcast. I need to reach out to those clients that have expressed interest and just to start that conversation.
Great. Okay. What's been the most valuable thing that you've been thinking about for this session?
I think the most valuable thing is to not think that I had to slay the biggest obstacle in my path, that I had to become somebody different. Right. And I don't have to become somebody different.
Yeah.
I just have to find a way to use the strengths that I have in a slightly different way to get where I want to go.
That's great.
And so, that's huge. Yeah. Cause I know it. And even talking about it, I still know that I'm never going to be that guy. But it's neat that we've come to the conclusion that I could do this and not be that guy.
Right. and already are.
Right. Yeah. I'm already doing it. I just haven't taken it to its fullest extent. Yeah.
Great. All right. Well, good work. Anything else for today?
No, appreciate this session. Yeah, your questions were. Have you thought about coaching?
So there was that was that session. So I guess just to sort of get the ball rolling here, what did it feel like to go through that coaching process, if we can call it that? What did it feel like for you as the person being coached?
Well, I think it's I always use the analogy that when you're trying to get your kids to take a bath, right? You're like, you need to take a bath, right? They're like, I don't want to take a bath. I don't want to take a bath. And then you get them in the tub and they're splashing around the tub. And then you're like, you need to get out of the tub. I don't want to get out of the tub. This is great.
I like this.
Yeah, this is fun. Right. So yeah, I had that same arc, right? Which is really weird when you think about it, as comfortable as we are talking to each other. But when we decided to do this and we decided, okay, I'm gonna get coached up on some stuff. And so yeah, it was a little uncomfortable, a little apprehensive, a little anxiety, like, oh man, I don't know how this is gonna go. And we're gonna share it with the world. That added a little element to it. And then the same thing, once you're in the middle of it, you're like, oh, this is helpful, right? This clarity is happening. And all of a sudden, things that I already knew have become clearer, and then boom, right, I know what to do next. And so that feels incredibly uplifting.
Well, so let me answer it from the perspective of the coach. How did it feel like for me to be going through that process? And there were several times during the conversation where I remember thinking, well, I didn't know he was feeling that way or wrestling with that, or I didn't expect him to take the conversation this direction. I had no idea what we were going to end up talking about, but I've got some expertise on shepherding that conversation toward that arc to something that actually did bring value to, where you were at. So anyway, it's just interesting, that from both sides, there's a little bit of a surprise.
Oh yeah. Which you would think would be, like, we've been talking for 20 years.
Right.
We've been hanging out.
How did I not know that?
20 years, right? Yeah, because could there possibly be anything that we haven't talked about? And the answer is yes. Yeah. And so I think that goes to, and I get that all the time. I'll have people sit and talk to each other, and I'll give them some questions and to ask each other. And no matter how long they've known each other, they walk away with more insight into that person and learning something about them, what makes them tick, understanding their motivations and so forth. No matter how long they've known that person.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the power of the questions and the power of a good coach.
Okay, so we've zoomed in and talked about sort of what it felt like to go through that session. Let's zoom out as we sort of wrap up this episode. What are some insights that you have about how coaching works, or what the value of the coaching process is in general, based on that session?
Well, I think one of the big takeaways, and we've always known this, is that you didn't teach me anything that I didn't know.
Right.
So it wasn't an instruction, it wasn't a training, it wasn't a learning as far as learning a specific skill. It was rediscovering within me something I already knew, but that I'd become trapped in, right? I'd become stuck. And so, and people ask us this all the time: how can you coach people in the medical field, right? You've never worked in the medical field. How can you coach people in the theater, right? How can you coach people in automotive retail? How can you do all these things? And the reality is, I don't have to be the expert. I'm not training them. I'm not teaching them. I'm just helping them explore. And most people come to us with everything they need. They just need to talk it through to the point where they can go do something with what they already know.
Yeah. And you and I had talked about this earlier, but sometimes it's not even talking, right? Sometimes it's the silence. I'm literally not doing anything other than asking a question and giving you a chance to think. And you're literally not saying anything back to me. You're literally just thinking, because that's what you need to do in that moment.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, people talk about an awkward silence in conversations, and in coaching, it's a comfortable silence. Right. As the coach, you need to be very comfortable with giving this person space to think. And so if I'm going to get unstuck and unwind, unwrap some stuff in my head, then it's going to take some time. It's not something that happens instantaneously. So asking the great question, being comfortable with the silence, and allowing the space for the other person to think. It's a gift that you give to the person being coached.
That is absolutely what it feels like, is a gift when those people get that time and take advantage of it. Anything else about insights that you had about coaching based on the session?
I think it's one of those things where you really don't know how long it's going to take. Right? And we know for certain that it's probably not going to be a 5-minute conversation.
Yeah.
In those rare instances, the magic happens and we get unstuck, or we discover something about ourselves that we want to do. But usually it's longer than that, and so I think this one was about 30 minutes, I think. And yeah, that seemed to be a comfortable time. I know when I schedule coaching with someone, it's a minimum 45 minutes and usually an hour. And we think about, like, what in the world could you talk to somebody about for an hour? And the answer is, it seems like it goes by incredibly quickly. Right? Our session felt the same way. That, man, that happened really quick. But it allows for the space for the magic to happen, for the discoveries to be had.
Right. And that image of the arc, you start small, trying to define what it is we're talking about, why it's important. And then just the more you explore, the higher that arc could go. It could go to some really wild places. And that may take some time. Some of those areas you may find out, that's not really the important part. And you move to another thread of the arc, so to speak. But it takes time for, people to sort of think that out. So,
definitely. Yeah. You've got to allow for that discovery, and knowing too that sometimes, you're right, it takes multiple sessions where, the person, tends to go deeper with each session until we get to the core, opportunities or issues.
Right.
And so, knowing that it's not a one and done kind of thing. Oftentimes it's during the follow-up that we discover, okay, that path wasn't exactly the direction I needed to go. But now that I know that, I've ruled that out. Now I know, what's left that I need to do.
That's right. One thing I want to highlight before we wrap up here is just that this would not have been valuable if all we had done was explore and let you think through some things. But we also decided on what you do with that new awareness that you had. So we took awareness and led it over to action. Go ahead.
No, you're so right. Just, yeah. Otherwise, it was just a great discussion.
Right.
Yeah, we had a good talk.
Yeah, good talk.
What'd you decide? Nothing.
You're right.
Yeah, nothing really. But yeah,
right.
I'd need, a great talk without something happening afterwards is, it might not have been a great talk.
Right. And I think the thing that maybe is we don't want to push people into something that is not what they need. But I think you and I both really believe, because we've done this, we've taught workshops on coaching. Almost everybody needs this, especially in this day and age. They just don't have time to think and decide on what would be progress to take action on the thing that they're stuck on. And so we would invite you, if you're listening to this and you've come to some awareness as a result of this session, that there are opportunities for you or your people to take steps, reach out to Mike and myself and let us help you work with your people on taking more of an action toward better coaching of your staff. So I don't know if there's anything else you want to add to that. It's as close to a sales pitch as I think we've ever gotten on here. But we both just feel so strongly that this really helps organizations that I don't want to miss an opportunity to say, you can do this. What you just heard, you can absolutely do.
Oh yeah. And it's interesting, right? So So I've got clients and they, we schedule things very far in advance and it's a set time and date.
Yep.
And then I had one of my clients the other day, I just got a text message and the text said, "Is it illegal to kill the people who work for you?" Like, I said, "I think we need a coaching session." Right. And so then we had just an impromptu 1 hour discussion and got to, like you're talking about, right? Got unstuck, figured out, okay, what's the core thing that's going on here? How do we keep this from becoming Groundhog Day, where I don't have to keep dealing with this issue and having the thoughts of killing my team? And so, yeah, so from those extremes to just starting, it starts off with a text message, a cry for their health, their safety, and or something that's scheduled way in advance, to everything in between.
Yeah.
So we're pretty flexible that way.
That's right. Well, so if we can help you, we hope this has helped you. And if we can help you further, like we're saying, please reach out to us. And, there's another coach in our lives, Mr. John Wolf, just a tremendous individual who also happens to be a talented DJ and voiceover artist. I think we'll let him have, as usual, the last word.
Yeah, he really likes the last one.
And that's it. Join us next time when you'll hear Mike say, well, I'm sure he'll say something pithy. Don't miss it. Next time, it doesn't take a genius.
That's good enough.